Revealed how a billionaire's unexpected visit to his Maid'S home changed his life forever. James Whitman's life revolved around luxury. He woke up in a mansion bigger than most people's dreams. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air as the morning light poured through crystal-clear windows. His sprawling estate was the pride of Chicago's affluent suburb, and every detail was meticulously crafted for opulence. Yet, as he hurried through his morning routine, chasing after the minutes slipping away, he never thought about the smaller details that kept his empire afloat. Maria Gonzalez was effortlessly present, her soft footsteps echoing in the hall, the sparkle of her smile illuminating the kitchen. She was more than just a maid. She was the steady heartbeat of his home. But to him, she was a blur, a fixture in the background of his glamorous life. To James, her broken English and worn hands meant little against his spiraling stock prices and board meetings. When his assistant rushed in with the news that Maria's son had been injured, the word struck harder than any financial report. He needs medical attention, but we can't afford it. The gravity of those few sentences hung in the air, vibrating with urgency. James felt a tightness in his chest, the first real jolt of concern piercing through his relentless pursuit of wealth. Suddenly, he was staring through a lens of privileged ignorance he had long relied on. Rushing to Maria's modest home, he found a world cradled in family photographs affixed to the walls, and a warmth that wasn't bought, but poured in from a mother's love. Amid the laughter of her two young children, there was an undeniable sincerity that cut through his curated existence. "James, please." Maria's voice trembled as she whispered her fears about losing her job if he offered help. There was that unmistakable conflict of interests. He was there as a benefactor, but their lives were intertwined by economic desperation. He found himself wrestling not just with the profound injustice of the situation, but with his place in it. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He grappled with this harsh reality, even as he stood among his peers at a local fundraising event later that week. Surrounded by cheerful neighbors, he started to see faces, hear stories, and recognize what had been invisible all along. Conversations draped in struggle and aspiration echoed through the halls, a stark contrast to his bubble of privilege. In a moment of clarity, he stepped up to the microphone, his heart pounding. "We need to confront the inequalities in our community," he declared, the words spilling out like a floodgate opening. "We talk about progress, but what about those left behind?" Applause erupted, and hope surged in the room. But with every clap came the weight of questions. Could he truly make a difference? How could someone like him, so entwined in wealth, become a genuine ally? As he walked home, the proud faces of hard-working families lingered in his mind, intertwining with Maria's laughter. He felt the urgency for change, but was it enough? His journey was just beginning, and the road ahead promised no easy answers. Could he truly break free from the gilded cage he'd lived in for so long? The hopeful murmurs of a community rose around him, but uncertainty threaded through the air. How would he move beyond good intentions into action? James arrived home, his mind racing. The echoes of his impromptu speech still reverberated in his ears, all those hopeful faces staring back at him. But as he settled into his plush armchair, reality tugged at him. What now? He had spoken to the crowd, yet words felt too fragile without action tethering them down. The next morning, James made his way to Maria's house again. This time, he came with a plan. His heart raced with anticipation and anxiety, creating a cacophony of emotions that made his palms sweaty. He had stayed awake the night before, brainstorming how he could make a real change and not just another fleeting promise. When he knocked at her door, Maria answered, her face brightening as she recognized him. "James, Her surprise quickly shifted to concern. "Is everything okay?" He smiled, though a knot twisted in his stomach. "I want to help. For real this time." He stepped inside, assessing the room. The vibrant hues of the family photos contrasted sharply with the faded wallpaper. This was a home filled with joy, yet every corner whispered stories of struggle. "What do you mean?" Maria asked, her voice a mixture of hope and disbelief. He took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about how I can support families like yours in this community. We can start with school supplies for the kids and funding for healthcare. I want to create opportunities for everyone to thrive." Maria's eyes widened. "But you can't promise that. It's too big. What if you fail?" She looked uneasy, as though grasping the enormity of what he was suggesting, and a wave of frustration washed over him. "I know it seems daunting, but we can't keep doing nothing." He took a step closer, his voice firm. "If we don't try, we'll never know. I'm not looking to be a savior. I just want to help lift others up together. You've shown me the importance of community." Tears pooled in Maria's eyes, a mix of gratitude and anxiety. "What if I lose my job? What if people find out? Only if we let fear silence us. If we can show them we want to change things, perhaps they will come along," he replied, his determination fueling his courage. Days turned into weeks. James met regularly with Maria in her living room. He began to connect with other families, listening to their struggles while also inviting them to share their visions for a more equitable community. But not everyone welcomed his efforts. Rumors began to circle in his circles of privilege. Why is he wasting so much time on the less fortunate? One neighbor scoffed at a party. James felt each whisper like a dagger. He had to choose. Would he cower to the doubts of his world, or would he continue to forge a new path amidst disapproval? His phone buzzed one evening with a message from Maria. "There's an emergency meeting about funding for schools tonight. They want to hear from everyone." A storm brewed in his heart. This was it, his moment to put everything on the line. Would he rise to meet the challenge, or would past fears pull him back into silence? As he prepared to leave, he paused at the door, the weight of his decision hanging heavy. He needed to confront not only the community, but his own fears. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the night, ready to face whatever awaited him. What would he uncover in that meeting? And would Maria stand with him, or would fear drive them apart? The community center buzzed with energy as James stepped inside. The walls echoed with voices mingling in apprehension and determination. It was a far cry from the polished halls of his usual life. He took a deep breath, scanning the room for familiar faces. Maria stood by a table covered with papers, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hey, you made it," she exclaimed, relief washing over her face when she noticed him. "I wouldn't miss it," he replied, a mix of nervousness and resolve tightening in his chest. As the meeting began, James felt every eye shift towards him. The leader introduced him, suggesting he share his thoughts. The room fell silent, anticipation thickening the air. Heart pounding, he rose to speak, gripping the edges of the table. "When I came here, I didn't understand. I didn't see how close the community was, how much each of you have been fighting for survival." His voice trembled but gained strength. "We're all in this together, and it's time to recognize that." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, invigorating his own belief. Faces lit up with shared understanding. Yet, a few expressions remained skeptical. Arms crossed, lips pressed tight. A man from the back stood up. "You've got money, but can you really relate to our struggles? What do you know about what we go through every day?" James swallowed hard, a knot forming in his throat. "I can't say I do know, but I'm here to listen. I want to help. If we can unite our efforts, we can make meaningful changes. Let us create a community where every child has what they need to succeed." Maria's supportive nod anchored him. He continued, fueled by her presence. "Together, we can advocate for funding that won't just keep the lights on, but will build futures. Let us ignite a fire that shows the world we're worth investing in." The room buzzed with energy, the hum of hope echoing off the walls. Yet doubt lingered. A woman stood up, tears in her eyes, her voice shaking. "What if we rise only to fall again? We've tried before. It was heartbreaking. That's the risk we take. James answered, a surge of passion guiding him. But if we stay silent, we guarantee nothing will change. Even if we stumble, we'll be rising together. The atmosphere shifted, the weight of his words lightening the tension in the room. Conversations ignited, wild and vibrant, as ideas erupted in every corner. James could feel the pulse of the community coming alive, fueled by collective hopes and shared fears. After the meeting, applause erupted around him, a wave of emotion washing over James. He was enveloped in handshakes and hugs, yet a shadow loomed at the edge of his heart. Would this energy sustain itself? Was this truly the beginning, or just another fleeting moment? Maria drew close, her eyes shining. You did it, James. You connected us. But she hesitated. There's a lot to do. You know that, right? Yeah. The gravity of her words settled heavily. I'm ready for whatever comes next. But as doubt lingered nearby, he wondered if he was truly ready to face the storm brewing in their community, a storm that wouldn't just be about funding, but would challenge his very identity. Yes, they walked out. The first drops of rain began to fall, each drop a reminder of unpredictable storms and the resilience they would need to weather. What challenges lay ahead? And would the community truly stand by him when the winds began to howl? James stepped outside, the cool raindrops hitting his skin, mingling with the heat of his lingering emotions. Each droplet felt like a reminder of both the promise and peril ahead. Maria walked beside him, her expression a mixture of pride and worry. You're a brave man, you know that? She said, glancing at him. But bravery doesn't fix everything. We've got skirmishes ahead. People are counting on you. I know, he replied, running a hand through his damp hair. I just hope I can really make a difference. I felt something in that room. But words are just words. Maria stopped, making him turn to face her. Words lead to actions, she emphasized. And sometimes, you'll have to face people who only see your bank account and not your heart. Just be prepared for pushback. You're not just some knight in shining armor. Her words lingered, enveloping him like the rain. He nodded, steeling himself for the challenges that awaited. Just then, a loud crash echoed nearby. They turned to see a group of teenagers catching a broken sign that had come loose from a nearby storefront. A few of them were laughing, but a couple appeared defeated, struggling to pick up the pieces of what seemed to be a broken promise, a grocery store that once offered discounts to families in need, lying barren and neglected. Help them, Maria urged, sensing his inner turmoil. This is what the community needs. Real actions. You can't wait for the perfect moment to step up. James approached, wiping his hands on his jeans, feeling the tension between his ambition and his vulnerabilities. Though he was a billionaire at that moment, he felt like an onlooker in an unfamiliar world. Hey, need a hand? The teenagers turned, surprise etched on their faces. One of them, a young boy with wide eyes and a dirt-streaked shirt, shrugged. What's a rich guy like you gonna do? He asked, skepticism lacing his words. James took a deep breath. I may have money, but I also know how to lift up people, he replied, moving closer to the group. I'm here for you. Let us figure this out together. He knelt to pick up a piece of the sign, and the other teenagers joined him, the atmosphere shifting from hesitance to teamwork. As they struggled together to make it right again, something changed inside James. The smiles and laughter began to bubble up, allowing him a glimpse of joy, a feeling he had long ago misplaced in his lavish world. In the midst of the chaos, one of the girls spoke up, You really care, don't you? Isn't it all about the money? James looked at her, trying to muster the right words. For real change to happen, it's about heart, not just cash. I want to understand and support. The girl nodded, a sense of cautious hope blooming in her eyes. It was a small win, but a win nonetheless. They managed to prop the sign back up. Maria smiled at him, a spark of admiration evident. See, just like that. Small steps create big changes. But the rain intensified, cascading down with a sudden fury. It mirrored the uncertainties swirling in his mind. Don't flinch, don't turn away, he reminded himself. He could feel the weight of the community's expectations gathering on his shoulders like storm clouds as they separated from the crowd of teenagers. A sense of urgency crept into his heart. What if he stumbled? What if the community, already battered and weary, couldn't withstand another letdown? "James," Maria said softly, her hand resting gently on his arm. "Whatever happens, you're not alone in this." Yet, even with her reassurance, the thought loomed large. Could he truly hold their hopes? Just then, his phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a message. "We need to talk. Urgent matter regarding funding." His heart raced. Was he ready to confront the reality of his world colliding with theirs? As the skies darkened even further, James knew he was on the brink of something monumental. The storm had only just begun. What awaited him on the other side? James's fingers trembled as he glanced at the message on his phone. Urgent matters regarding funding. The words were like a slap across the face, pulling him back to the reality he had just begun to step away from. His instincts told him there would be no easy solutions, no quick fixes to the issues plaguing both his life and those in the community. "Who is it?" Maria asked, sensing the shift in his demeanor. "Just business stuff," he replied, slipping the phone into his pocket. The conversation with the teenagers, the momentary laughter, felt like a distant memory now. He could feel the weight of expectations, his anxiety creeping back in. It was time to face the world he thought he could change. "I can't just ignore it," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They need to understand how serious this is." Maria stepped closer, her eyes locked onto his. "You know they won't understand unless you show them." As the rain fell in heavy sheets, he felt the urge to run for shelter both from the downpour and from the uncertainty looming over him. But instead, he took a deep breath and decided he wouldn't let fear dictate his actions. "Okay, let us go," he said, steeling himself. Together, they walked back to his car, the atmosphere crackling with unspoken thoughts. James knew that diving deeper into the world of funding might put him back in the land of corporate politics, where people didn't see him as a person, but as a bank account. Yet the gnawing sensation inside him told him that this was necessary. He couldn't play savior without understanding the system. As they drove through the now slick streets, the raindrops racing against the windows, a surge of worry washed over him. He thought about the promises he made to himself, about the potential he felt when working with the community. Would the funding matters derail his aspirations before they could truly begin? "Focus on why you started," Maria said, as if reading his mind. "It's about the people, not the numbers." Her words were a tether, anchoring him back to the vision that had ignited within him. Who was he to make big moves without taking risks? An idea struck him. He could leverage his connections to not only secure funding, but also to engage local voices in the conversation. What if he could find a way to turn this corporate world he was about to enter on its head? "I'll call a meeting," he said suddenly, a plan forming in his head. "I want to involve community members in the process. This is their future we're talking about. They need to be at the table." Maria smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "Now you're talking." Arriving at the office, they walked through the drenched parking lot. A sense of dread crept back in, but this time it was tempered with purpose. Inside, everything appeared sterile and cold. He could hear the muted conversations happening in the conference room. As he stepped in, he noticed all eyes on him, seekers of funding, skeptics of change. "Gather around," he called out, injecting a wave of energy into the room. "I want to discuss a new approach to our project that centers on community collaboration." The mixed expressions on the faces of the executives varied from confusion to intrigue. Just then, the door swung open, and an unexpected figure entered. Layla, one of the teenagers from outside. Her presence was startling and seemed almost serendipitous. "Layla?" James said, shock darting through him. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see what you'll do for us," she responded, her voice steady yet bold, piercing through the tension. The room fell silent. Would the presence of a teenager be a catalyst for change or a derailment? James's heart raced. He could feel that this was a crossroads, a moment when disparate worlds would either clash or find some common ground. His fingers curled into fists at his side. Could they rise together from here, or risk losing everything? As the rain continued to pour outside, James held his breath. What happened next could determine more than just a project. It could change lives. "Layla," he finally said, meeting her gaze with determination, "you're just as much a part of this as I am." And with that, he summoned every ounce of courage he had. The meeting of minds was just beginning, but would it be enough to bridge those worlds? The eyes in the conference room flickered between James, Layla, and the executives, a palpable tension hanging in the air. The muted hum of rain drummed against the windows, but inside, there was silence. James was acutely aware of the weight of the moment. A teenager standing before a room full of seasoned professionals was not just unusual, it was revolutionary. "Look," he began, fighting the quiver in his voice, "I promised that what we build here would reflect the community's needs. Here, Layla, representing the voices of the very people we're aiming to help. If we're serious about change, we need to listen." A murmur rippled through the executives. Their faces, usually composed and critical, mirrored surprise. James noticed a flicker of doubt in their eyes, but he refused to back down. Layla was here. They had to reckon with her presence. "Why don't you tell them what you've seen in your community, Layla?" He encouraged gently, hoping to give her space. Layla, the embodiment of determination, stepped forward. "People in our neighborhood want more than just charity. We want opportunities, real chances to succeed. We need to be part of the decisions that affect our lives." Her eyes scanned the room, resolute. "And frankly, we're tired of being left out." James held his breath as the executives exchanged glances. He could almost hear gears grinding in their heads, trying to process the urgency behind her words. Would they dismiss her? Would they see her as an obstacle rather than an ally? Then a voice broke the tension. "So what do you propose?" It was Jake, the lead executive whose life revolved around numbers and metrics. His line of questioning was rooted in skepticism, but James could sense a thin thread of curiosity. Layla spiritedly replied, "We want to be part of planning future projects. It could be an open forum where everyone, including us, shares ideas. It's not just about you giving us money. It's about creating a partnership." The tension shifted, slowly transforming into something less hostile, a soft intrigue. James watched as the executives leaned in, listening more intently now. Hope surged within him. "Exactly," James added, his voice gathering strength. "Let us establish a platform where young voices like Layla's are heard. We can plan workshops, training sessions. This isn't just another project. It's a genuine collaboration." Maria, who stood at the back, reflected the electrifying energy in the room. She nodded encouragingly, a support beam in this unpredictable storm. "Maybe we could pilot a program together," suggested Rachel, another executive who had been silent until now. "We could assess its impact and iterate based on feedback from the community." James felt a rush of gratitude. This was how it began, exchanging ideas, breaking walls, building bridges. He caught Layla's eye and saw a flash of relief mixed with startling intensity. They were in this together. "Then we'll include a diverse group, not just teenagers," James proposed, excitement bubbling within him. "Let us reach out to parents, elders, everyone. The more perspectives we have, the stronger our foundation will be." A cautious optimism filled the room, blooming like spring after a long winter. It felt liberating. The unlikelihood of Layla's presence had sparked something profound, a movement beyond themselves. But just as he thought they were moving forward, the door swung open again. The room held its breath again as a familiar figure appeared. Mr. Donovan, the CEO. His presence was commanding, but an unexpected softness lit his face. "Is it true?" he asked, looking directly at James. "Are we seriously discussing community input?" "Absolutely," James replied, his heart racing. "Layla and the community can guide our path forward." Mr. Donovan stepped further into the room, the weight of his stature bringing an electric hush. "Then let's hear from them directly." As James grinned at Layla, the tremors of hope turned into a symphony of possibilities. Could this truly be the moment that changed everything? But just as the realization settled in, James felt a twinge of worry. gnaw at him. What if they failed to meet the community's expectations? Would this collaboration pave the way or create an even deeper chasm? An unspoken fear lingered in his heart as he steeled himself for the journey ahead. Where would this newfound ambition lead them? Okay, let's make this happen, he finally said, adrenaline pumping through him. But in the back of his mind, a question lingered: would they find the answers they sought? Or would the gap prove too wide to overcome? The air in the conference room shifted, electric with anticipation. Mr. Donovan stood tall, his presence commanding but softened by genuine interest. He'd been the mastermind behind many initiatives, but had never before shown such willingness to engage directly with the community. "Let us open the floor then," he said, glancing at Layla, who looked both excited and apprehensive. Before James could speak again, Layla took a step forward. "We just want to be included in the conversations that shape our future," she insisted, her voice steady as she took in the faces watching her. "The only way we can move forward is together." The executives shuffled in their seats, some jotting down notes. James could feel the warmth of change brewing. Hope dangled before them like a shimmering thread. But he knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy. They had already faced resistance, trying to prove their earnest intentions could blow up in their faces. "Layla's right," Maria chimed in, her voice cascading with warmth. "We need to understand the real issues. What good is a plan if it doesn't address what people really need? Let this be a time to listen." One of the junior executives, a young woman named Aisha, leaned in. "I remember coming from a community like yours. I know firsthand how vital it is to get youth involved." Her voice carried the weight of relatability. James pressed his palms together, encouraging the dialogue. "So let us set specific dates to meet. We can brainstorm ideas and structure a series of workshops. Then we can present these ideas back to you guys." Mr. Donovan folded his arms and nodded. "I like the sound of that, but it needs to be authentic. This isn't just lip service. It's a step towards structural change." Layla's face lit up with a mix of disbelief and excitement. She glanced at James, and he could see her levels of confidence rising. They were building this together. They spent the next several minutes outlining potential goals. Would the community prefer job training or educational resources? Would they benefit from mentorship programs? James jotted down every point, cheeks flushed with determination. The meeting continued. Laughter sporadically punctuated the serious discussions. When they settled on an idea for a community showcase to share talents and skills, the executive team began throwing out suggestions, finally breaking free from their usual reserved personas. But beneath the joy, an anxious knot tightened within James. What if they fell short? What if their efforts crumbled against the vastness of bureaucracy? As the meeting wrapped up, Mr. Donovan stood again. "I want to make this a point of pride for our company," he declared. "Let us ensure this partnership is real and effective. We can have our first community meeting next week." Applause broke out, and Layla beamed. There is something beautiful about the moment people from vastly different backgrounds finding common ground. But as James left the room, the exhilaration of hope was accompanied by fear. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were just beginning to scratch the surface. Outside, rain continued to pour, still drumming against the glass. Yet it felt different now, as if washing away the doubts held within those walls. The reality of what lay ahead loomed on the horizon, a mix of possibility and pressure. "I can't believe we did that," Layla said, joy radiating from her face. James nodded, trying to conceal the weight in his heart. "Yeah, but we need to hit the ground running. There is a lot of work to be done." "Together?" she asked, searching his eyes. "Absolutely, together," he affirmed. But as they exchanged smiles, his mind wandered. Was this truly the beginning? Or was it a false dawn? A flicker of hope before a new challenge? The moment felt precarious and thrilling, like standing on the edge of a diving board. Taking a deep breath, he wondered what deeper conversations might reveal and how high the stakes would climb. The next few days were a blur of preparation and anticipation. James and Layla spent countless hours drafting a proposal for the first community meeting, compiling ideas, and organizing their thoughts into something coherent. The response from the executives had been promising, but the weight of expectation hung heavily in the air like an uninvited guest. As the meeting day approached, excitement mingled with anxiety. Layla's enthusiasm never waned. She would often catch James off guard, suggesting ideas late into the night. Their laughter filled the room, but James could sense a shadow lingering. Could they really make a difference? When the big day finally arrived, James found himself waking up earlier than usual, his heart racing. He glanced at Layla, still lost in a dream, her brow relaxed and free from worry. He wished he could share her optimism. After all, this wasn't just another meeting. It was a chance for the community to express their needs and desires, a chance for real change. He paced around their shared workspace, rehearsing his lines, envisioning every possible scenario. As they made their way to the venue, Layla's excitement was palpable. The community center buzzed with life, people pouring in from every corner of the neighborhood. Families nodded in recognition as familiar faces mingled in the hall. Children laughed and played, their joyous energy an antidote to James's swirling doubts. "Look at them, James." Layla gestured toward the crowd, her eyes shining. "They're here because they care. It's time they had a say." But with every optimistic word, a flicker of concern burned inside him. What if the voices in the room weren't heard? What if the community's hopes turned into silent disappointments? As the clock struck 6, James took a deep breath and stepped onto the makeshift stage alongside Layla. The room quieted, eager eyes focused on them. James grasped the microphone, feeling its weight as if it contained all their hopes and fears intertwined. "Welcome," he called out. "Today isn't just another meeting. It's a conversation, a chance for each of you to tell us what you need and expect from our partnership. We are here to listen, to learn, and to work with you." Each word felt significant as it hung in the air. Layla followed, her voice confident and reassuring. "We believe this is just the beginning. Together, we can build a plan that truly serves this community, one where every voice truly matters." The audience responded with light applause, a hesitant ripple of encouragement. James's heart fluttered, but eagerness and impatience flickered among the audience. Questions and suggestions poured forth. Some followed with disbelief, others with hope. "Will you really take action?" An older man asked, his brow furrowed. "Are you just saying this for the optics?" A younger woman questioned, arms crossed. James's stomach sank. He felt the weight of their doubt pushing against his resolve. "We're here for you. We will share everything discussed here with the executives. This isn't about promises, we want real solutions." If they were going to make progress, they had to face this moment head-on. He noticed Layla watching from the side, her unwavering gaze encouraging him. They would navigate this rocky road together. The discussion deepened, growing more intense. Ideas clashed, stories of hardship surfaced, dreams and fears mingled in the air. James saw the pain etched on the faces around him and recognized something vital. This was more than a meeting. It was their lifeline, and he intended to hold on tight. As the evening wore on, the crowd transformed, shifting from skepticism to engagement. They were opening up, but right as James felt a surge of triumph, a commotion erupted from the back of the hall. James turned, heart racing. A figure stepped forward from shadows. The crowd parted, faces lit with curiosity. It was Aisha, the young executive from the meeting, and she wasn't alone. A man followed, closely behind her, his expensive suit stark against the modest surroundings. James felt his heart drop. Not a celebrity? An investor? What did he want? As the murmurs grew louder, he could only wonder what this stranger's arrival meant for their fragile hopes. Would it deter the community's trust? Would this be the turning point, or the start of something much more complicated? "Who are you?" he finally asked, too anxious for a simple greeting. The man smiled, but the intensity in his eyes hinted at a deeper purpose. The man stepped forward, his confident stride forcing all eyes on him. He radiated charisma, his smile an unfortunate mix of charm and something more calculating. The room buzzed with nervous energy. It felt as if a thunderstorm had rolled in, darkening the bright atmosphere that had just begun to brighten. "A pleasure to meet you all," he said, voice smooth like silk, but heavy with implications. "I'm Thomas Harrington. I understand you're having a little get-together about community engagement?" James swallowed hard, trying to calm the rising fear that settled in his throat. "Yes, sir. We're here to listen and understand the community's needs." Thomas nodded, taking a step closer to the stage. "I love what you're trying to do, but let us be real. Without funding and substantial backing, all these ideas are just nice thoughts." James felt the breath hitch in his chest. Was he here to offer support or to tear them down? Beside him, Layla's face tightened. They had fought for this moment, and now doubt threatened to creep back in. "What do you know about the real needs of this community?" Someone from the crowd shouted, a clear voice cutting through the tension. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. "Exactly," Thomas continued, unfazed by the challenge. "That is why I'm here. I have an interest in ensuring that these projects succeed. It can be a difficult path without the right resources." He gestured to a group of well-dressed individuals who had followed him in, murmuring softly among themselves, their presence reminding James of their stark contrast to the room full of everyday people. "People like us want real change, not just a flashy campaign." Another voice chimed in, and James's heart lifted a little. It was nice to see that passion sparking in others. "Of course," Thomas replied, raising his hands as if to calm a storm. "I'm not here to promise anything just yet, but wholeheartedly, I'm interested in hearing your stories. Perhaps over dinner sometime? I feel personal connections lead to the most impactful projects." Layla's eyes widened as she glanced at James. Were they really being courted by someone so powerful? Rumors of Harrington's generosity and cutthroat business practices danced in James's mind, colliding with the desperate hopes of the community. "James," she whispered urgently, "he might truly help us." But could they trust him? Thomas's charm could hide, perhaps, a threat to their independence. The air shifted, heavy with decisions yet to come. James needed to know what to think, and felt every heart in the room beating with similar uncertainty. "How do you plan to support us?" he asked, trying to regain control of the conversation. Thomas smiled, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if seeing through James's doubts. "I have resources, financial and otherwise, but I need assurance that you're committed, truly committed to seeing this through. I don't invest in failure." The tension morphed into an odd dance of opportunities and warnings. The crowd, still uneasy, was caught between excitement and distrust. James felt a twist in his gut. There was an undeniable allure to the idea of resources, but were they willing to gamble their integrity for it? "What do you want from us?" a woman asked, her skepticism a beacon of clarity amidst the uncertainty. "I want transparency, passion, and a promise of results." "What do you want?" Thomas countered, his eyes glistening with ambition. James glanced around the room, aware that each hopeful face was silently testing him. Did they want to take a chance on a man who seemed to promise all but deliver little? As the debate swirled around the room, transforming from focus to frenzy, James felt the walls close in. Then it hit him this wasn't just about them anymore. The next steps could define the community for years to come. Would they trade their visions for the shiny allure of support? And just when he thought he had an answer, Thomas leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Imagine what we could achieve together. But let me remind you, every partnership comes with a price." The words hung in the air, a powerful challenge lingering in every eye. Would they be able to navigate this treacherous waters together? Or would they risk everything they fought for? How could he stand firm in his values when this was just the beginning? James felt the weight of those words settle heavily in his chest. The allure of dreams intertwined with the dark shadow of compromise. He was standing on a precipice, unsure of whether to leap into the darkness or hold back. The crowd murmured, confusion dancing on the faces that had once held optimism. James took a moment to steady his breath, the heartbeat of the community echoing in his ears. He turned to Layla, whose expression mirrored his own mix of determination and uncertainty. This was their moment. He knew they couldn't let doubt dim the flame ignited in their hearts. "Let us talk about that price," he said, his voice rising above the crowd's unease. "If we're discussing collaboration, it should involve clear benefits for the community, not just a checkbox for you, but real lives improved. We've seen enough empty promises. This isn't about the glitz, it's about genuine investment. We deserve better than a partnership that feels like a power play." There was a shift in the room. Hopeful nods began to ripple, inspired by James's insistence. A community member shouted, "We're tired of being pawns. We want the chance to shape our own future." The words struck a chord, igniting a newfound passion in the room. James's heart pounded. This might be the turning point, the moment when the community thundered back in unity. Thomas watched, a flicker of surprise dancing in his eyes as he realized the tide had turned. "You think this is some game?" he challenged, still seeking to regain control. "I'm offering opportunity." "Opportunity built on what terms?" Layla countered, stepping forward, her voice steady. "You see us as a project, not as partners. We want to be bartered or silenced. If we're offering our future, we deserve the chance to shape it ourselves." A powerful silence swept through the crowd, anticipation crackling in the air. The executives shifted on their heels, uncertainty rippling through their polished exteriors. James felt invigorated by Layla's words. She wasn't just a teenager anymore. She was a beacon of hope. The flicker of courage spread like wildfire in the room. Finally, James squared his shoulders. "We will negotiate, but it will be on our terms. If you want our community's trust, it starts with respect. If you want to invest in us, then you'll need to let us lead this charge. Are you willing to do that?" Thomas's eyes narrowed, considering the implications. The air was electric, trembling with possibilities. The undercurrent of tension felt charged with potential. Layla chimed in, "We want to engage in real discussions about the community's needs, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. If you promise to collaborate with authenticity, then we'll consider your offer." The tension in the room thickened. James felt a shiver run down his spine as the gravity of their words hung suspended, waiting for Thomas's response. It seemed to last an eternity. Then, as if accepting the challenge, Thomas nodded slowly. "Then let us talk. But be aware, this isn't a charity. What I offer is an investment calculated and expected to yield results." "Then you've just taken your first step into our world," James said, a glint of defiance in his eyes. He felt buoyed by the collective strength around him. "I cannot promise you an easy path," Thomas replied, a surprising edge of respect creeping into his tone. "But if you're willing to engage, I'm willing to listen. Perhaps this can be a two-way street after all." The crowd erupted into applause, a thunderous wave of camaraderie and resilience. Layla turned to James, her eyes alight. "They heard us. We can do this together." James's heart surged. The community was standing with him, actually standing together. Hope spun higher than he dared to dream. "Absolutely, together." As they left the meeting, Layla whispered to him, "This is just the beginning. We have so much to do." James nodded, feeling lighter than he had in ages. "And with every step we take, we'll build something genuine with the community at its core. I promise you that." The storm clouds had lifted. Rain still fell gently, but now it felt refreshing, washing away doubts and fears. The road ahead was demanding. Challenges would undoubtedly come, but together they would rise, fortified by the shared strength of a community hearts bound by hope and action instead of simply words. The promise of a brighter future loomed on the horizon, and with every step, they would ignite the path to change. And deep down, James realized that perhaps in trying to change the lives of others, he was also changing his own. So many shards of truth had already fallen into place. It was time to move forward. Now, dear friends, if this journey has inspired you, if the resolve and resilience have touched your hearts, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this story alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And please share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait. Not even one more second. Join the movement and let your voice be heard.